All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Xiaochen Fan, and I'm a postdoc researcher in Tsinghua University. The title of our research paper is Quantifying the Similarity of Urban Forms through the Building Morphology Complexity Index. There are two other co-authors for this research. So here is the outline of this presentation. Let's get into the background part first. So urban morphology study seeks to understand the spatial structure and characters of cities by examining a particular pattern of its core components. There have been different schools that developed along the research trajectory in this area. For instance, the British school, they developed the town plan analysis to comprehend the urban forms, and there are also other like Italian school and the French school and other new schools. So it is about the form and the logic of urban structures and how the urbanization process is developed. And there are typical physical forms that can be used for the urban morphology analysis, including the street patterns, as you can see on the right figure, and also the plot patterns and building patterns. Also, collectively, they together form the urban grain. So basically, in this research area, there are two fundamental research issues. The first is how does the physical form of a city change over time, and the other is how do different cities compare to each other. So our focus is on the second one in this research. So here, this figure shows how we can use, analyze the urban form from different perspectives using different types of data. And inspired by some recent research works, we explore to use building footprint data to quantify the similarity of urban forms. And there's a famous quote from the Aldo Rossi. You may know he was a famous Italian architect, and he said that buildings and their forms are actually deeply connected to the identity and history of urban space. So regarding why building-related data are important for the urban morphology analysis, we list some key motivations for this study here. And also, there are two research challenges in quantifying the similarity of urban forms using building footprint data. So the first is that there lacks the alignment of metrics and mirroring urban form similarity. Because different metrics, they emphasize on different aspects and attributes of building footprints, but it is hard to know which one is more suitable as the representation of urban forms for similarity analysis on different cities. And also, we struggled sometime to get available data, and that meets some standard requirements. And the second challenge here is that as we are targeting the city level similarity analysis, so the quantification method needs to be generalizable to distinguish urban forms across different cities, and be more specifically maybe different regions, and the results should also be interpretable. And in addition, there could be millions of building footprints for us to process. So we also consider the computation efficiency in our design. So the framework and methodologies, the key problem here is to design a quantification methodology to evaluate the urban morphological complexity of building footprints and further compute the similarity of urban form on different cities. It is not a very complex problem, but it involves with some particular techniques to process this kind of building footprint data. For example, there are three major steps. The first one is data collection and pre-processing. We need to select some target cities and align their boundaries with building footprints using the GIS rasterization process, and also aggregate data from maybe region level to building level. And the second step is to identify a suitable index as a tool for the calculation of building morphology complexity. And the third step is to aggregate the city level measurements for the urban form quantification. So each of these steps involves with a series of techniques to process data then here shows three major data providers that have released the data on the building footprints. They are Google, Microsoft, and OpenStreetMap. So eventually we choose OpenStreetMap as data set because they also build a Python package called OSMNX, and we can use this package to access and download this data. It is very user-friendly, but for Google or Microsoft buildings, you have to download data like one city and cities by city, one by one. So it's kind of laboring. So regarding the building morphology complexity calculation, we refer to some existing research literacy and examine each of these indexes in the target city. And we compare their ability to represent building footprints morphological complexity. And ultimately, we choose and adopt the building morphology complexity index as a key. It is already actually developed by other researchers, and we compare this series of different indexes, and we focus on the alignment between spatial geometry and the complexity or regularity of building footprints, because we think shape is more important regarding the complexity of a building. So here is our initial results on the experiment. This is a note paper. The data set contains over 6.8 million building footprints covering 47 cities around the world. And also we collected the boundaries, registers, and using a coordinate system to align this data to each city. So here we list different cities on different continents. And for the evaluation metrics, we commonly use the metrics. One is the entropy, and the other is index of dispersion. And the second one is actually adopted from an existing paper. So here are some visualization results on the building footprints that we have collected in some target cities where you can see the blue polygons. They are the outlines of buildings, and you can see these building footprints are really fine-grained, and this provides us as a foundation to calculate morphology complexity index in terms of accuracy. And here are more results. Simply from this kind of data set, we can see that the building footprint are highly matched with ground truths from satellite images. So the results here, the first results we show here is a variation of BMCI values of building footprints across different cities. We can find that cities from nearby geographic regions, or if these cities have similar cultural backgrounds, they typically exhibit similar patterns in terms of the value range of the complexities. And also these two sub-figures show that the similarity of urban forms by comparing the building footprint areas and the building footprint complexity values. We can see that there are actually 4 types of city clusters here. For example, for Chinese cities, they have very large building footprint areas, which means that in each city, maybe there are millions of tens or millions of buildings, and the other clusters here we can notice that for the Eastern European cities, they have very high volume of the IOD of building footprints complexities because the structure of their buildings is more complex than just square the square shape, yeah. Okay, so in another angle, we can further quantify the similarity of urban forms by using the entropy metrics and a radar chart. A remarkable cluster, we can here see that there are three clusters in the left figure. And for North American cities, they tend to have lower values in entropy of both building footprint areas and complexities. And in this cluster, there are also one city from England and the other one from Netherlands. And they show that they have typically maybe similar urban forms in terms of their buildings complexity. And also we can further quantify the types of cities by calculate the average values of over 9 metrics on the right figure. We can see that these values are all related to building footprints in terms of different features. And we can see that different types on the left figure have distinct values across the range over different metrics of building footprints. This also explains why they can form different clusters on the left figure and the previous figure as well. And the last is the discussion. The potential research opportunities by using building footprint data are vast because we can use this kind of data to get 2D or 3D building morphology. And we can also analyze the semantic urban morphology and characterize them. And we can also get more insight into the physical structures of cities. But there are also a limitation here because we only use one type of data, that is a building footprint. Other research studies, they also refer to like street patterns, plot patterns, and also combine these kind of physical structures with urban mobility data, so they can have more insightful findings from this big data. So to conclude, we have provided a building footprint-based assessment on the similarity of urban form across cities worldwide with statistical and quantitative measures. And the ultimate goal of the research is to develop a more generalizable method or tool to decode the urban morphology. And we aim to acquire more strong insight into the geographical or historical and cultural distinctions that are deeply inherent in the urban landscape. And I think that maybe contribute to our understanding of the urban forms and how different cities around the world are influenced by each other from historical or geographical or cultural reasons. Yeah. So that's my presentation here today. There is a reference list here, and we highlight some highly related works here. Yeah, and we also released the code and data here on GitHub, and on the right side is the QR code of our lab. If you are interested in urban science or other related studies, you can visit our website. Okay, thank you all for listening, and any questions or suggestions are welcome. Thank you.
Any questions? Hello.
Hi.
In general, I really like the idea of trying to classify different cities through like their shape and their structure. How do you try to do you create new metrics? I know you had a metric for like how circular the shape was, or how boxed or rectangular it was.
Yeah.
Did you make those metrics yourself, or did you get inspiration from other works?
Yeah, well, we didn't delve into how to design a new index to measure the morphology of buildings. We simply refer to existing research literacy, and also we examine all the indexes here, and we found that they typically focus on different aspect of a building's shape. For example, the circularity, it measures whether a building is more like a circle, or for the convexity, it focuses on whether it is a square. But they cannot directly reflect the complexity of the building structure in terms of the 2D building footprint. As you can see on the right figure here, it categorizes different levels of complexity over the 2D building footprints. For the very simple one, they are just square or rectangular. But for the complex one, they have like convex, and they also have more corners and more axes on their footprints. Yeah. So on this, in this regard, we selected most suitable metrics for this research, but actually these metrics have long been provided in the architecture research area. Yeah. So we just found the best one that could be suitable for our research. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you for your talk. I was wondering, because when I think of how a city might have evolved, I think that a main influence would be the part that's not buildings. So speaking of rivers and lakes and forests, parks, like that, do you have something in mind how to maybe include that as well into your classification of city shapes? Because the part that is not actually sealed is also a big part of the city itself.
Yeah, thank you for your question, and I agree with your opinion that simply using building footprint may not be sufficient to accurately represent the urban forms. But there have been other research studies. They use like street networks, also plot and other physical structures in the city, and there are different physical forms, like buildings are one of them, and also, as you mentioned, the park, the lake, the water area, and also the street networks, and also maybe other social economic indicators. They can also reflect the differences between different cities in terms of their structure and morphology. So yes, we plan to combine more related data to decode the building. To decode the urban morphology, and actually we are more interested in how the urban structure evolves across different time. For example, there was a paper studying on the Paris, because Paris, they have different circles. In the inside circles, there are some maybe buildings from ancient times or have long histories, and these buildings have their typical forms. And for other later developed areas, their building morphology are more simple, and they can have typical types of features that we want to do in the future. But I think maybe combining other urban physical structures is definitely a good idea to make the representation more strong and more reasonable to indicate the physical features of urban morphology. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think it would also be interesting to see maybe correlations between that, like the amount of water inside a city and the building structure that results from that, but I don't know.
Okay, thank you, no problem.
Okay, so thank you. So let's thank the speaker again.